Those already here. Hey, Gail, if you want to put your title slide up, you have host, you should be able to share.
All right, perfect.
Looks older than that. I'll bet he doesn't.
Oh, you put your camera on. Nope, you're muted. You're muted. We can't hear you.
But he turned it off.
Because it's there's Gail. Now she can hear us.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, nice. That works too.
Hey, it works.
It does.
That's really
So you can see
all 32
all 32 of us.
Hey, yeah.
I'm gonna make sure I was at the right place.
You're in the right place.
All right, let me get through.
Yeah,
All
come on
right.
in.
He turned his camera back. I'm waiting for him to say, wait a minute. You told me there was 32. Cause he's counting down.
I'm waiting to see how many we'll get.
Well, they're just now starting to come in, so.
Yeah.
Somebody just came in and said there's a whole bunch of people out in the parking lot, so.
Us load. Yeah. Did you lock Louis up somewhere?
He's in the corner. Yeah, he's in the corner.
So you can hear him pretty good when he talks from out in the.
Yeah, I can.
Oh, that's good. So we don't have to have.
Well, yeah, that way when people want to ask questions.
Questions.
Kids, come on in. Come on, there's coffee in the back. There's some cookies back in the back.
You guys have coffee and cookies?
We had to bribe them somehow.
Hi.
And we can put more chairs out. We just didn't have any idea who all was showing up.
We didn't either.
Well, Mary actually said, wait till the kids get here.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I was totally throwing Travis under the bus. Not putting to work. but nobody does anything early anymore, so. I guess I could bring those cookies out here now.
Those on here.
Did you?
Some people.
Yeah. Not good. Heard about, you know, they're trying to come to Texas or something.
We'll stop to go to the back for coffee, and then there's popping water.
Oh, it's working everywhere, so they get one.
Say thank you all the way along.
Okay, thank you. It's affecting you, so. Everything else. And I was at a meeting. You know, this, they want to calculate cats. Oh. And I'm thinking, what are all these birds flying all over the place? Fortunately, it never. Or coming in.
Perfect, the chaos.
Yeah.
You should put Travis for, hi.
You all came together?
Oh, yeah.
I've seen.
Yeah, it's a big organization.
Well, you need to do it.
You can put up more chairs.
Travis.
No, yeah. There will be. All right. Hopefully I can answer. No, we should. Good.
Sorry, it's a bid.
No, you're good.
Good, that's cool.
Looks
good.
So that's Gail, she's in the second window down, the second Brady Bunch window down, she's gonna do our.
She probably.
Hi,
but I was
everyone.
just telling the kids, there's cookies up front, and there's, you guys know there's drinks in the back, in the fridge.
Oh,
So,
they're well aware.
is that good, Keith? He said we had Blair. She said we got a couple more on the way. And then we'll, I guess we'll still got 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Why don't you go get a drink? Yeah, get started.
No, that's there.
Hey, Gail. Gail.
Yes.
Some of these young people are serious, they're taking notes.
Okay, good. Oh, I forgot to put my email in the slides. I'll put it in the chat box if anyone wants my email to email me questions. They don't remember them during.
Yeah, we can make sure that.
And my lack of Zoom experience has failed me. Hold on.
For you guys, we got the rest of the plates on, so if you got plates from Chieftain or Golden Grain, all the plates are up except Shooter of the Year and States. So if you didn't see your plaques after with all your awards on it, they should have all your awards on them.
Did you see yours?
How'd you do, Travis? Did you? Yeah, congratulations.
So I just ordered those plates, they'll be in about 2 weeks.
Staff. Remember, yes.
Why is it doing that?
We are supposed to have it every day. Really cool. Look at me, that's. How you really?
15 here. 16, 17, 18.
Which I really like, he got this, he got the second one, yeah, he got the second.
We're there on the left.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that should, he's really. And now he goes, really cool.
Hey, Gail.
Hello, yes.
That horse on your slide,
Your
is
head's
that
cut off.
the horse on your slide?
Yeah,
That,
hold on. I've done something funky on my end. But what, yes, what about said
that's
horse?
the one we talked about that you had farrier problems with.
Yeah, and we are still having issues, and now we've switched back to the old farrier who we had 5 years ago. Which that has its own set of issues, but oh well. We can talk about that after if you'd
Yeah,
like.
I'll leave you alone, go ahead.
I think we have somebody sitting out in the parking lot, and then when they come in, I guess we can probably go ahead and get you started.
Okay.
So when they come in, I'm gonna mute us so that you can, so that there's not a whole lot of noise on our end.
Okay,
Sorry,
sure.
I probably like. Hey,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm tech support.
I need that too. I guess Louie's my tech support, although so far I've been okay. Your thumb doesn't even appear in frame.
Like I was telling the other kids, there's cookies up front and there's drinks in the back, so if you guys want. Yeah. Yeah.
I think I better get out of here while I can.
All right, sounds good.
You can stay.
Stay this year? I don't want to eat, okay. I was just curious how many we had signed up. That's,
No, you can get mine. You can get some. Like some people even get them.
this weekend.
I don't know, I want to get that point. I really was trying to read.
Yeah, I think it's
Do you?
the first.
But they don't even get essentials. They don't, they get them. Yeah.
Give me a couple minutes, a minute or two to introduce her.
Yeah.
They unload that truck out there.
I think that's.
I just
Yeah. Might as well stay. All right, Fred.
Okay, we're gonna get started in just a couple minutes. So I wanted to introduce Gail to you. Gail's a friend of mine from West Virginia University. She was a student of mine and now she's a friend of mine. This whole thing happened just by her and I having a conversation. She's in poultry nutritional sciences. So one day we were just talking about avian flu and she started handing out all this good information that I thought would be helpful. So this is about the first time we've done something like that here at the club. So this is a little bit new to us. And we expect to have maybe some trouble. I wanted to thank Mary Mary did all the IT in, all I did was. I knew Gail and Gail was willing to do this and that's how we put this together. So how many of you are raising backyard chickens right now? Any of you have? Okay, so you got a bunch of hands in backyard. Okay, that's good. All right, so we're gonna just, we're gonna start, let Gail get going. We're gonna hold all the questions until the end, okay? She's spent as much time with you as you need. So it's all yours.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Gail McAndrew. I'm going to talk to you guys about avian influenza and the key points on how to protect your flock. And we're not transitioning. There we go. All right, a little about myself. I grew up in upstate New York, and I currently go to West Virginia University. It is a 7-hour car ride to get back here, which is always a fun road trip, but we make do. I currently am studying poultry nutritional sciences. We do a lot of work in the feed mill, manufacturing feed, messing with diets, doing research projects with that. I just helped out on a study where we had about 1,800 turkeys. We ran that for 42 days. That was pretty cool. I do a lot of pH fecal sample analyses, which doesn't sound very interesting to a lot of people, but it's really fun. The poultry industry right now is one of the highest paying industries as well, if that's something you guys, as kids, are looking into. There's money where there's food. It's one of the best job security industries out there. I'm currently a PhD student prospect. I've been offered a PhD position with a fully paid tuition and salaried on top of it. I've put in a lot of effort to get to that point. It wasn't just handed to me. I've also gotten a scholarship working in the feed mill and putting my time and effort in there. And I grew up hunting and fishing, so I can relate to a lot of you guys. There's some pictures of me. That was a turkey I got a couple of years back. That was my deer 2 years ago. That ice fishing photo of the chain pickerel, I just went home on a whim a couple weeks ago and decided I would go ice fishing with my family, and it was a blast. And then on the bottom right, that's my horse Early. Fred and I talked a lot about him because he has some hoof issues that have started about 5 years ago, and we're still chugging through it, but it is what it is. So now I'm gonna get into it. So for an overview of how tonight is gonna look, we're gonna talk about what is an avian influenza. We're gonna go over biosecurity, personal protective equipment or PPE, how to protect your backyard flock, some statistics that are important, crossover into game birds. I know that's something that a lot of you are going to be thinking about as well. What avian influenza looks like, just in case one of your flocks goes positive, and what to do about that. And then the Q&A segment at the end if you guys have any questions. I also have my email in the chat box, but I'll have it sent to you guys afterwards as well. Just in case you guys have any questions that you might think of after this, you're always welcome to email me, and I'm happy to get back to you. So let's start off. What is avian influenza? It is a respiratory virus. It's typically referred to as AI, as a broad spectrum, even though there's a lot of things that kind of are called AI. I'll be saying that a lot tonight as AI, and I'm referring to it as avian influenza. You will hear H5N1, HPAI, and LPAI. H5N1 is the strand of the virus. You might also hear H1N1, and that sometimes gets confused. That's swine flu. They're different. They're different in the receptors. They're different in how they react in the body and who they affect. Although they're similar in the fact that they are a respiratory virus and how they're spread. Although pigs can't fly, so it's a lot less volatile as H5N1. HPAI is highly pathogenic avian influenza. This is the one that we really have to worry about as backyard flock owners and as like the poultry industry as a whole. LPAI is low pathogenic avian influenza. It has a reduced mortality rate significantly. Some birds can survive it, although it messes them up pretty good. The protocol for it is in some ways the same as HPAI. Usually, the CDC will have to be called, and your birds have to be cold. One thing I want to get away from this as well is you with backyard flocks, and I have a backyard flock, so I get it. There's a certain level of emotional attachment to your chickens, and they are pets to some extremes. The way this virus acts, it acts as if it's a livestock. It doesn't care about emotions. And so you very much have to approach it with some sort of emotional disconnect and regard that it doesn't care about emotions. It doesn't care about feelings. It will run rampant, and mentally, some people have to prepare for that, it's hard to do. I've had to do that in my own career. I went to college here, and some of the first things I had to do was hand cull birds. And as someone who went from showing my own poultry and having my own backyard flock, that was really hard. It was a hard thing to learn. So just be mindful of it. And I hope you guys never have to experience that, but have it in the back of your mind, be somewhat mentally prepared for it. Now we'll move on to transmission and carriers. One of the biggest things in HPAI is silent carriers that happen with waterfowl. So geese and ducks are your main forms of carriers. They will spread it as they migrate. So you have to be very aware of HPAI when it is migratory season, which is about 7 months of the year. It's about 4 months in the spring and about 3 months in the fall. So really, it's majority of the year is migratory season. The main issue with waterfowl and being silent carriers is majority of them don't die from it. So as a game bird, they are fine because some of them do, some of them are affected, but not all. So when they're migrating, all of that fecal matter that drops, that can now be a vector for transmission elsewhere. But since they don't die from it and they have no symptoms, that's the biggest spread across the United States right now and across the world. We also have flare-ups of HPAI about every 5 to 7 years. But this year has been one of the record years, so that's why it's getting so much traction, and we're seeing a lot of that in our egg prices, which has made the general public more aware and more concerned. Vectors. Water is a huge one. It can live in water. I believe the studies are now showing for 150 days it can survive in water. So one of the main issues with that is shared drinking water between backyard flocks and any other wild bird. That's a big no-no. We want to pretty much eliminate that if we can. Feed also is a possibility. If any fecal matter comes into contact with feed or you have a bad batch of feed, that goes for most viruses too. Any bacteria as well. If there's moisture in the feed and bacteria can grow, that can be harmful. So you want to know you're getting feed from a good source that isn't contaminated, which is hard considering we don't have direct contact as consumers. We get it from the feed store and we just have to trust it. Make sure you're getting it from the most reputable feed store you can. Inspect the bags, make sure there's no holes. When you open the bags, make sure the feed isn't discolored. It looks normal, it smells normal. Get familiar with your feed, get in there. That's one of the best advices I can have for you. As someone who makes feed, we look at temperature and temperature and conditioning and how much we cook it, basically. Cooking it kills bacteria. It also has to do with the structural integrity of the feed, but that's more advanced than you guys need to know. Fecal matter is your number one vector overall, even though it's a few steps down from the thought process. If you get fecal matter on your shoes from an infected bird, say goose poop, you're walking through a field, you step in poo, that's now on your shoe. HPAI can live on a surface for quite a while. I'm not sure the exact amount of days, but in the industry, we have it as 72 days from flock to different flock and moving in between them. So at some point within that time, if you're then walking around, say a feed store, say Tractor Supply, and you spread that manure, someone else who also has a flock walks over that path, say they go directly home and into their chicken coop, that now exposes their chickens to HPAI, possible infection. So you want to be mindful of where you step to the best of your ability. And I'll get way more into that on biosecurity and how you can reduce that even more. Another vector is infected animals. Most mammals, actually all mammals, have a receptor to HPAI in their digestive tract. Birds have a receptor in their digestive tract and respiratory tract. And then dairy cows actually are now being found to have a receptor in their mammary glands. So any infected animal can, in theory, infect another animal if their flesh is consumed. So that might bring some thought process into if I hunt wild game, say you hunt a silent carrier duck. We'll get into that a little later, but it's not too much of an issue for eating it as long as you cook your meat correctly. So your biggest concerns there are just watching where you step and being mindful of how you move around the world. For biosecurity, I was talking a little bit about that before. One of the biggest things is eliminating direct exposure factors. This can be done super easily with bleach foot baths, isolation, and reducing cross-contamination. Cross-contamination is what I talked about in the Tractor Supply, walking over the fecal matter, getting stuff like that, or going from flock to flock. Say your neighbors have chickens and you go straight from their chickens back home into your chickens, that's cross-contamination, a big no-no. Bleach foot baths, this might sound a little odd to anyone who isn't in an industry that practices biosecurity, but basically they sell a product and it's just powdered bleach. The best thing you can do is have a pan of that, like a foot pan tray. The Rubbermaid tote's really great for it. And you put about a 2-inch layer of that bleach powder down. You want to step in that before you go into your chicken coop and then step in it the second you come out of your chicken coop. For my backyard flock, that's a little bit more difficult. We basically go from our porch to our chicken coop. So our bleach bath is on our porch. Step in that, go to the chicken coop, come back, step in it, and de-shoe. I'll get into that, but having one set of boots is super important. And those are the only shoes that should be going in and out of your chicken coop and nowhere else around the world, basically. They need to be solely for the purpose of your chickens. Isolation. I know it's a lot harder for people that have free range birds to try to reel them back in, but during migration season, it's not the wisest idea to have free range birds, as geese, ducks can be flying overhead. They poop while they fly. If that poop lands in your yard and they step in it or whatever, even if there's a aroma from it, if they smell that, there's a receptor in the respiratory tract, they will get infected. So isolating them into their own run or pen, especially if you can get one with a roof, is super critical in reducing your exposure factors. Traffic control is another big one, and this has a lot to do with industry. I don't know if you guys have ever been in an area where chicken houses are a big thing, but sometimes you'll see like signs that'll say no public access, no trespassing, biosecurity hazard, big things like that. I have one on my screen right now. It's because the less vehicles on that property, the better. And there should only be a set few that are in and out every day. And it's to reduce the amount of, foreign material, foreign fecal matter introduced onto that property. Also, you want to extremely reduce the people interacting with your birds. As much as you might trust them, you don't know where they've stepped that day. You don't know if they've showered or if they've washed their clothes from the day before, where maybe they interacted with their own chickens. This isn't to say that they're inherently dirty, but I know I've thrown on a pair of jeans that I've used the day before and said, it's good enough. If you've worked with chickens the day before, you put everyone else at risk. So you want to reduce the people interacting with your birds, only the ones that you know where they've been. So yourself, maybe your family members, and that's about it. Sanitation is also really important. I know deep litter is super common in industry, which is okay as long as there has been no AI. But the second, if there's AI, they have to depup their whole house, and they can't have birds for another 6 months or until the CDC determines that it's okay. But during that time, they need to remove all the old litter, and there's certain ways that they can legally dispose of that litter because it can't be transported if it's positive. So burning or burial or composting are the most common, but that litter needs to be tested. And until that litter comes back negative, they can't have birds. Um, but if you ever have AI, you have to get rid of all your birds, get rid of all the litter, and then bleach disinfectants are really important. And then that goes for sanitation in general when you have birds. It's really good to get into a habit of cleaning your coop out. Once a month is great if you can. More often is even better, but usually around once a month is sufficient. Take a dilute bleach solution in a spray bottle and spray it around the floors of your coop and the roosting bars, and that helps keep bacterial load at a minimum. You also want to do the same for nest boxes. It's one of the most trafficked areas in and out of your coop, apart from the roosting bars. So make sure you keep everything clean. It really helps reduce your likelihood of getting any sort of virus or bacteria or fungus, any infection in your birds. Moving on, we have PPE, personal protective equipment, for your backyard flocks. Specific shoes is the most prevalent and important thing you can do. Have a set of shoes that are specific to your coop and nowhere else. You put them on when you go to your coop, and you take them off the second you're back. They don't go in your house. These shoes cannot go in your house. They are for your chickens and only your chickens. That's to reduce fecal matter coming into your coop that isn't from them, and fecal matter from them that, if, say, they are positive for AI and you don't know it yet, it's in that tiny, tiny little window where they're positive and transmitting but not showing symptoms. And when I say tiny window, it's like within hours. But say you walk in with those shoes and you walk out and you go out and run errands, you now expose everyone else that walks over your tracks to HPAI. Also, washing hands, something that people really need to do more often. But you should be washing your hands before and after you go out to your chickens. You might like to cuddle your chickens, which is fine. Shower after. And it's not because your chickens are dirty, but it's to reduce possible having yourself become a vector if they are ever infected. Or even, say they have mites or lice, which is a whole separate issue, which I could probably do another presentation on. But you don't want that. Even though they can't live permanently on you, it's better not to deal with it. Shower, wash hands. If there is an active infection, if you guys have to deal with that, the PPE is same with the industry standard. So industry shoe covers, which are these little stretchy plastic boot covers. I've had to use them for a long time. They make stretchy ones, and then they make full glove style boot covers. Disposable gowns or overalls. There's a faded picture of one in the back. Except usually ours cover the legs. It's a whole suit. Hair nets, keep everything up out of the way. Masks, gloves, goggles, sometimes even face shields, especially. All of the human cases that have come from AI, HPAI, not all, sorry, like 90% of them, have been from people interacting with known infected birds for long periods of time and not wearing PPE. Most likely, they had an active virus on their hand, touched their mouth, ingested it, ate it. So as long as you're taking proper protocol, HPAI currently is not something you yourself need to worry about getting. How to protect your backyard flock. I know I talked a little bit about this in the slides previous, but it was important you had a foundation of what those meant before we could get into this topic. Biosecurity, huge. Number one measure in preventing your birds from getting anything. Keeping traffic to a minimum, specific shoes for your birds, super important. PPE, we just went over. I think that's pretty fresh, so I will gloss over that. Locational feed and water, it's not talked about enough, but you need your feed and water to where wild birds cannot access this. Even that could be songbirds. Feed and water inside the coop. Cannot be accessed by anyone, and it's best if your coop has a small run door that they can come in and out of, but not so much as wild birds where they see it as a big opening. It's kind of hard to like fly into it. So small opening, feed and water inside. Since AI can live in water for a while, you don't want a possible songbird, even though it's very unlikely that they get HPAI, which I have in a final slide towards the end. Say they do have it, anything that can get in there, saliva, whatever, can then be taken up by your birds and give them HPAI. Confinement and isolation. The picture on my slide is a really nice photo of that. You want to make sure your birds have flowing air respiration. It's super important that their airflow is not limited. And even though AI is a respiratory infection and can travel through the air, you can't suffocate your birds either. There's so much ammonia that's produced via their fecal matter that they need fresh air. So that's not really an option. But you also want a roof over a run. If you can possibly get that, that's ideal, because then you're not risking falling fecal matter from ducks, geese, any of the migratory birds flying over. You're protecting your chickens in the best way that you can. It's super important during the migrational seasons, especially off seasons. So like middle of the winter, middle of summer, it might be okay to let your chickens free range for a day or two at a time and on and off. I know with our birds, we let them out in the winter when we're home in the evenings, or winter/summer, and they can go out and peck around. I know if you live where there's a lot of snow, it can be harder in the winter. They don't particularly enjoy stepping in snow. So usually summer days are pretty okay, pretty safe to let your birds out and roam. But definitely wait for a little while after migratory season is over. We're not there yet. And it depends on the area where you are once that is over. So just keep an eye in the sky. Once you stop seeing those geese fly over, ducks, give it a couple weeks, and then you're free to let your birds out for a little while. Statistics. These are going to be United States specific. I'm sure that's applicable to almost everyone in the room here. So far, positive wild bird infections. So this consists of game birds, ducks, geese, any of your not chickens or turkeys, pretty much, is 12,581. In the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot at all, which is really good to see. And it's surprising, but it's because of the way the receptors work within wild birds. It's not the same way that the receptors work in the domesticated birds, and we don't know why. That's something that I've tried to research for a while. It's really unknown on why the virus acts certain ways towards specific birds. Positive poultry infection is 168,200,000 234,314. This is the CDC statistic as of 2 days ago, I believe is when I last updated it. It's updated once every 24 hours. I looked at it today and we went up just about 30,000. So not great. And HPAI is 90 to 100% kill rate for birds, and that's without culling them. That's the disease itself. So I've heard a lot of people say, why don't we just let it run its course? It's not a viable option. Your genetics will be bottlenecked, or the chickens that do live won't be able to reproduce because it messes with the whole bird system, especially their internal organs. So the population would die. The best thing we can do is try to prevent it, or if cases have come up, to humanely euthanize or cull them. Positive human infections is 70. So far, only one person has died from it. He was an older gentleman with a ton of underlying health issues. So HPAI was kind of the straw that broke camel's back, and no downplaying it, but it's not too much of a concern as long as you are healthy and aware. About 60 of those are from other people handling contacted birds, infected birds. About 9 of them are from raw milk consumption. I mentioned earlier that dairy cattle have a receptor in their udder. That milk then is positive for H5N1. If that cow is then milked on the milking equipment, it'll spread throughout all the other cows in the herd, and then it'll be in the milk supply. Now, this isn't an issue as long as you drink pasteurized milk. The milk does not have to be tested for AI, as far as I'm aware, before it goes into the mainstream supply, and that's because pasteurization kills it. Pasteurization heats it up to a point where all the bacteria, all the bad viruses die. The issue with that is anyone who decides to drink raw milk, which I have my own opinions about, and I will not get too terribly into, but that raw milk has no protections against any of the viruses that might be in there. And then also, if we get into a little bit of cooking your meat products and chickens that might have HP AI, as long as you cook your chicken to 165 Fahrenheit internal temperature, which is cooked chicken, you don't have to worry about it. It kills the bacteria. The issue with that is if you decide to feed your dogs or cats a raw diet, they could then possibly get infected if that's a positive bird. If they then lick you or lick your face, you can get it as well. So just being mindful and being smart about how you live and how you respect the science that's around you, and don't be afraid of it. These are things that have been in place for hundreds of years now. Trust the science. It's basically the biggest thing on that. Our current US population of poultry, turkeys and chickens, is 742 million. So a good chunk of those have died from HPAI, which is the reason why egg prices are so high right now. They are currently starting to decrease the trend of how many are getting infected in industry, which is nice. They're being more careful about their biosecurity. They're trying really hard. It should slow down significantly once migratory season is stopped. The one good thing about chickens, as far as most animals go, is the repopulation happens fairly quickly. From egg to chick, it's 21 days in incubation. From chick to egg laying female, it's about 20 to 24 weeks. And then from productive egg laying female, it's around 26 to 28 weeks. So, taking that into consideration, it's about half a year to get a fully replaced batch. For cows, it's 2 years. So we're pretty lucky in that sense. Poultry death when infected with AI is 90 to 100%. Touched on that before. That's why it's impossible to just let it run its course. And moving on is crossover into game birds. I know this has a lot of prevalence to you guys, especially the ones who hunt game birds or who raise game birds. It's a fairly low risk. I know we talked about the 1,200 or 12,000 wild birds infected. That talked about all game birds, songbirds, any other birds that haven't been domesticated, pretty much. So it's a really small portion. AI does not affect all birds in the same way. This is super important when we're looking at this. Number one, like visual for that is silent carriers in ducks and geese. A lot of times when H5N1 gets into like game birds, wild birds, it doesn't kill them. It can make them sick for a while. They're not all a guaranteed death sentence, which is really good considering that we have a lot of wild birds and we care about them. I wish it was the same way for domesticated poultry, and unfortunately, we don't know why it's not that way. Oh well, there's nothing we can really do about that besides preventing it as much as we can. Your silent carriers, your ducks and geese, if you hunt them, the biggest concern there, as long as you cook them the right way, it's going to be transportation and processing them. If you have backyard flocks and you're transporting your game birds that you just killed, especially ducks or geese, you probably don't want to process them out on your property. With it being a respiratory issue as well, it can migrate in the air, the virus itself, through the wind. It doesn't have too long of a transmission lifespan in air, but if you're on your property, depending on how close you are, it can be close enough. I'm not sure what you guys want to do if you have an alternative option, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Maybe process them at a friend's house who doesn't have chickens, would be the best idea. I'd also be aware when transporting them, you might have said virus in the air around where your truck goes, where your vehicle goes. So maybe bring some bags with you and put them in bags while you're moving, just reducing spread factors as much as you can. But as far as eating them goes, as long as you cook your birds to 165 Fahrenheit internal temperature, you'll be fine. You don't have to worry about it. I saw some fun things about songbirds. They are resistant to getting it and they're resistant to giving it. So if they do have it, they're very unlikely to give it, which is really fun for our bird watchers and can also be linked back to our bird feeders. I know we like to feed our birds, especially in the winter when we don't have to worry about the bears. I'd say be careful if you feed your birds and have a backyard flock. Be mindful of it. Don't do the same group of chores in one go. But it's not an end-all be-all. So as long as you are mentally aware that that could be a factor, you should be okay. And then for those of you who don't have backyard flocks, continue feeding your wild birds. There's no studies so far that have shown that wild birds eating from the same feeder is increasing their spread rate because they don't get it very much. I think there's only been about 100 of that cases that have been specific to songbirds. And then what AI looks like, and then what to do if you have AI. This is something I hope you guys never have to deal with because it's awful and it's depressing. But we might as well go over it while I'm here, just in case. So the picture on the screen does a pretty good job of showing it. Sometimes their backs are sloped a little bit more and their chests will be high, and they look uncomfortable. They look sick. You can really tell. And I'm sure if you've ever had a sick bird with anything, you can tell. Key factors are ruffled feathers. decreased egg production, which sometimes can be hard to see if you have a lot of chickens, especially if it's just one bird out of the bunch, even if it's something that isn't HPAI. But you'll know if it's HPAI because it won't just be one bird. It will be your whole flock. Wheezing and coughing is a pretty big one, and that goes for all respiratory issues. Isolated behavior is really common in a sick bird. Even if she's just egg bound, she will completely isolate herself from the group. And death. Death happens within 48 hours of getting HPAI. And again, it's 90 to 100%. If that happens, if you walk into your coop and it looks like zombie land and everything's dead, a big murder scene, but no feathers anywhere, it wasn't a predator. It's very obvious if it's not a predator. Call the CDC right away. Call your state ag department, call the CDC. There's protocols in place for this. There will usually be a team that'll come out to your property and depup the birds. So you will not have to be the one to kill them, which is good for a lot of people. A lot of people are not comfortable doing that. You want to make sure you do not touch your birds unless you are fully PPE'd. You might need to go, you might need to order that. You might need to go out and get it somewhere, but it also might be wise to have it on hand. Do the best you possibly can, and the CDC will give you resources for it. They also have to be mindful of reducing the amount of them that can come out to your property. So you will have to deal with it yourself to an extent. They will advise you to step every single step of the way, but them themselves can't do everything for you. Now, because of transporting AI, they cannot take those birds with them, the dead birds. So they'll give you an option based on where your property is, the current regulations in place, such as a burn ban. But the three main ways of disposing AI, litter, and birds is composting, burial, or burning them. Depending if there's like a burn ban, they might advise you one or the other or a combination, but that's something that they'll have to do. Now, I believe it's 6 months that you cannot have chickens after that, and you will have to pass an inspection and testing from the CDC once you get up to that point. And I want to say it's weekly testing once you get around the point of not having to deal with AI anymore, as like a live thing on your farm. But it's totally understandable if you get AI afterwards, if you never want to have chickens again. And as much as that sucks, it's something you might mentally want to be aware of. And there's nothing wrong with that decision. And if you do want chickens again, great. Maybe figure out how they got it in the past and see what you can change and be progressive for the future with your birds. Thank you. Do we have any questions?
All right, Gail, you want to take your screen share down so we can bring up the Brady Bunch windows?
Sure.
All right. So just because we're in this room first, does anybody in here have any questions for Gail? You kids, you guys good? Good?
What dilution of bleach?
You might have to yell louder.
What dilution of bleach should we be using?
What dilution of bleach? That's a great question. I'd say anywhere from like 80% water, 20% bleach is probably the lowest you should go. I would look that up though and double check me on that because I haven't been home in a while. I've been here, so I haven't been doing that back at home, but I'd say 80-20 is probably okay. You might want to go a little higher.
All right, I see we got about 17 other people in this Zoom online with us. So if anybody has any questions, you guys should be able to unmute yourself and ask your question. If you can't, there's a button there to raise your hand and I can go on and click it, or you can you can add your question in the chat, or you can, I think Gail's email's in the chat as well. So you can always send Gail an email. I'm sure she would love to have all kinds of random emails from a bunch of people she's never seen before.
I don't mind. Happy to help.
I have a question. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just wondering, like, at what point do you think it would be safe to allow the birds back out of the coop? Like, when would you consider the migratory season to be over?
I'd say probably late June would be around the safest. Maybe early July would be pretty safe. As soon as you stop hearing those geese quacking in the distance, I'd say would wait like a few weeks after, and then you're probably really good to go.
Other domestic animals, I understand that cats may be somewhat susceptible. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So any animal that eats wild birds, eats birds that could possibly be infected with AI, could get AI themselves. It's not a death sentence for mammals, although it can live in mammals. I believe we're seeing 150 days living in mammals, maybe even longer. They found it in seals already as well. It's not too much of an issue if they get it for you, as long as you don't consume anything that they might lick or interact with their saliva, or any sneezing, any volatiles off of them. Cats are your biggest household risk of getting it because a lot of them hunt, a lot of them are in wild birds. Now, the good thing about that is songbirds have a really decreased rate of getting H5N1. So the likelihood of your cat getting it is low, but not zero. So I would just watch them if they bring in a bird. You can get them tested for H5N1. It's up to you. Usually, though, they'll start having a cough or a wheeze. Take them to the vet, get them on an antibiotic. It should clear up symptom-wise in about a week. So, yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Gail, I got two things.
Go for it.
I'm sitting off to the side so you can't see me. So you had talked about powdered bleach.
Mm-hmm.
Where does Tractor Supply or someplace like that have powdered bleach? So then you don't have to mix the liquid. The powder just goes, you just put the powder in the tray and you walk back and forth over it.
Yeah, you kind of shuffle in it. But yeah, powdered bleach, they might sell it at Tractor Supply. They absolutely have it on Amazon, though. You can get it shipped to your house really, really easily. So that's our go-to rate at the school here is we have a card through Amazon through our program basically, and we get all of our PPE stuff straight from Amazon, and it comes 1 or 2 days. I guess the benefits of modern world technology.
Okay, so 80-20 is what I know is used in horse barns when there was outbreaks of strangles.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the liquid goes, if you want to do 80-20, I think that's doable. And then I have another question. There's bald eagles are beginning to repopulate this area. So what happens if Papa Bald Eagle snatches somebody's bird out of a flock in a backyard that has AI and feeds it to their babies? What happens? Will that be a death sentence to the babies, to the hatchlings?
Yeah, probably. Sometimes the immune systems of adult wild birds can handle it and they can get past it. I'd say the babies won't stand a chance. And that just goes on biologically being weaker. They haven't been exposed to many things. Their bodies aren't strong enough yet. They're still trying to grow. A lot of that energy is spent in growing mass and growing feathers. It hasn't boosted their immune system. It hasn't focused on that yet. So I'd say it's a not a great sentence for those babies, which is unfortunate and it's sad, but it's the reality of it. So everyone's really attached to these two little eagle chicks online, and it might be morbid of me, but I'm waiting for the day where something happens and everything's gonna just catch on fire in the media about it, and people are gonna now blow up about the littlest things because the one eagle died. I don't know.
Everybody else here, good, oh, our question.
I have a question. At the very beginning, you said your degree will be in, is it poultry nutritional sciences?
Yes,
What-
ma'am.
What is the profession? I know you said it could be like a high level profession when you graduate. Like, what kind of job would you go into with a degree in that?
Yeah, absolutely. So most private poultry companies have one or two nutrition specialists. The company that I've worked for the past summer, and I'll work for them again this summer, they already want me as their nutritionist for once I finish my PhD. That has to do with a lot of statistics and data analyses and getting the reports back on feed efficiency and specific, like, they look at ash content of bones and how strong their bones are and a whole bunch of factors. And they all have to factor that in to all the amino acids and micronutrients that are composited into the end feed. So that's what I'll be doing. It's mostly a desk job. Some of the nutritionists work in the feed mill though as well, and they'll look at the ingredients coming in and see if they're the correct quality. They'll do sample analysis on it. And starting salary for that position is about 160,000 a year. Yeah,
Thank you.
no worries.
Hey, Gail, we
Yes.
throw some statistics out about, it was always amazing to me, like, how big is Mount Air that you interned with? They're like, that's one of 3 facilities in the United States.
So, yeah,
How many eggs a day do they hatch? Remember all those things how many pounds of meat, that they.
yeah, absolutely. So I worked for Mount Air Poultry, which is the 4th biggest poultry company in the world this past summer, and I'm going to work for them again this summer. A lot of people haven't heard of them because they do retail or wholesale selling to retail stores. So all your Aldi's brand chicken or all your ShopRite brand chicken, that's all from Mount Air, basically. A lot of restaurants are supplied by Mount Air. If you know what Cisco is, most of their chicken is from Mount Air. So they're huge. I worked in their hatchery this past summer, and then this next summer I'll be working in grow out. But I worked at the Millsboro hatchery in Delaware, which was one of 4 of their hatcheries. We produced about 700,000 to 1.2 million birds a week out of that facility. And a week consisted of 4 days. It was 4 working days. We had a batch Monday out of the East Wing and a batch Tuesday out of the West Wing. Wednesday was sanitation. Thursday, East Wing. Friday, West Wing. Weekends off. Now, chicken hatching is really cool because it's 21 days exactly. So they can schedule out hatch days really, really well as far as putting things in the incubator 21 days, shipping out to farms. So they all get Christmas off at the hatchery. They get New Year's off because they can plan around it. It's a lot harder to do with birds that are a little bit more variable in their hatch lengths. A lot of times that's with birds that are bigger. Emus, for say, take 44 to 48 days. There's a window, so you have to be a little bit more cautious about that. Now, we don't have an emu industry, but it's something to be aware of, and it's nice that they're able to do that. Mount Air has the largest facility for processing birds in the United States. That's in Lumber Bridge, South Carolina. They operate out of Delaware, Maryland area, and then South Carolina. They they're a family and community-based company, so there's a lot of good values and ethics within them, which was really cool. I worked on a bacteria and sanitation project, so I got to go around swabbing eggs. And the idea for that was to reduce bacteria on eggs to limit early, mid, and late mortalities in eggs caused by bacteria going into the eggs. I got to give a 15-minute presentation to the CEO of the company and the entire board, as well as all the mentors and other interns for that summer. It was really cool. I got offered a job as soon as I finished my presentation by the CEO, and he wants me pretty much as soon as I graduated. He asked me, when did I graduate? I said, I graduate undergraduate school next year, but I've been offered a PhD. And he said, all right, keep in contact. And Mount Air has a pretty good funding policy as well for further education. So even though I'm on a good offer, a good scholarship for it. They have a $6,000 funding policy afterwards as well, for further education per years. So that helps with books and stuff and anything that wouldn't be covered.
I have a couple more questions. So as far as like the backyard flocks, you really think the biggest concern for them, if it's not, you're being around other flocks, is geese and wild ducks?
Yeah, I absolutely do, because there's not a way to prevent them from flying over your property, and they also don't stop to poo. So they will defecate midair and they will fly over your property, fly over your coop. And if your chickens walk through it and then it's on their feet and they scratch their head or they then preen their feathers, whatnot, there's a ton of any sort of their mucous membranes, digestive system, respiratory system. There's all the ways for them to get infected as long as there's fecal matter in their coop.
And then my other question is, thank you. And my other question is, of the amount of birds who have bird flu so far for the AI, how many of those are like backyard flocks versus like the big production?
I wish the CDC had a number for it, but because of how they started tracking it about, I want to say it was 2019 when they started really tracking it, they grouped them as a whole. And they've got it, like, it's on their website that it is a together statistic because they wanted to keep the data in line. So I wish I had an answer for you on that, but I don't. I know the industry side of that is a lot more concentrated. A lot of it comes from that side just because of how many birds there are per house, per property, really, because if one bird tests positive on a property, usually they go in and cull the whole property's worth of birds. So I know that's a lot more concentrated.
So if you have a backyard flock and they get sick, are you obligated then to notify the CDC?
Yeah, you absolutely are. If they find out about it afterwards, you are eligible for fines and I believe jail time now. So as much as that is unfortunate, you are protecting a lot more people by letting them know and dealing with it in the proper protocols. And it has nothing to do with politics. It's simply out of protecting everyone, protecting the industry, protecting our food supply as a whole. If you can limit the spread from your birds elsewhere, because you still have to move in and out of your property every day, you reduce the risk of other birds in your area getting infected as well.
Do you have any thoughts on when or how this might end as far as?
So I don't know if there ever will be a proper end to it. I mean, the flu has been around, the human flu has been around with different strains for as many years as I can remember. I know the CDC is sitting on vaccines for every variant that they've had. they're currently running a vaccine study in Australia and testing those on flocks as a preventative measure, which I think should be implemented in the US. I really do. But the US has come so far to the point where we're trying to reduce the amount of antibiotics and vaccines given to edible birds, to all your broilers and stuff, that they have not allowed, the USDA, I believe, is the entity that hasn't allowed the CDC to output vaccines. I know vaccines are going to be given if they are to egg birds and to chicks out of hatcheries that are going to backyard flocks, because they have a much longer lifespan than, say, a traditional broiler, which is only about 8 weeks. So really, we wouldn't even have to worry about the meat we were consuming ever being exposed to the vaccine, because it would be uneconomical to give it to them in the first place because of that lifespan and their replacement rate. So personally, I understand as a social concept why we haven't given the vaccine, because of the public's current perception on that. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. I think they should be vaccinating egg birds and they should be vaccinating chicks, which there are different methodologies of vaccines for chickens, and that's a whole nother thing, and I can totally go into that if you guys want. But you personally having to vaccinate your backyard flocks wouldn't ever be a thing. You would either call someone out if you have adult birds that you wanted vaccinated, or they'd be vaccinated in the hatchery. So that's also not an aspect that you, outside of the industry, really have to worry about too much.
Is there anybody on the Zoom that wants to chime in and ask questions? Make sure you guys get unmuted.
Very good. I think we're done.
All right.
Hey, let's give Gail a little round of applause. All right, can I drop
Thank
off?
you, guys.
Did you guys want to throw in a question? I see your video popped on.
No, we just want to say thank you.
I'm so happy to help you guys. I'm so happy to be a resource available to you.
Yeah, well, I'll make sure you get a copy of this and make sure you know how to get it off of my OneDrive.
Perfect. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. I think everybody learned a lot. I think everybody got to ask a lot of questions, and
Well,
I think it was kind of funny because Fort Cherry sent me an email saying that they were doing avian flu in their animal science unit. So it was very well. It was a pretty neat coincidence.
That's fun. It is relevant right now, so.
Okay, is there anything else, Gail? You good?
I'm good as long as everyone's good.
Yeah, one more. It's not really a question. It's a question for the audience. Hold on.
Sorry, if I could just have the Stockman's kids, if you could just tell me your name so that I can mark you down as being present here for your attendance, that would be great. I got
Zechariah and Luke are here.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Noah and Sebastian Christensen.
Got you, Noah.
And Sebastian.
I got you.
Caitlin Laskanik.
Got ya. And I think I see Noah.
Is that it from the Stockman's Association?
Jonah.
So Gail, just so you know, this is the Beaver County Stockman's Association that got involved with this too. So their meeting was tonight, but I guess their kids are involved in a different set of their projects. So
okay.
Yeah, we were very interested. Thank you very much for sharing.
I'm so happy to have you guys.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks a lot. I'm gonna kill the feed. So thanks everybody for coming on, and I think this worked really well. I wouldn't mind to see a couple more of these seminars, as we find other people to do different talks about different things. I think this was kind of a nice thing for the club to do. So, all right. Thanks, Gail. Good luck with
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.